So we have on paper the top two teams in the Mid-American Conference going head-to-head as we welcome in Mike Robinson from the Rocket Radio Network. Mike Rob, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Before we get into the Buffalo game, we got to talk about this Kent State matchup. Now, you're on the sidelines. Toledo's down 21 points in the first quarter. What was the mood like as you were walking back and forth behind that bench?
You know, I went straight behind the defensive bench, after they gave up the second touchdown, and I was able to sit there and listen to the leaders of the defense, and it was Desjuan Johnson and Deontay Johnson. Those two guys gave a fiery speech that I cannot repeat right now that was so good that I was ready to get in the game. But it was more so just saying, hey, they're going to go fast. They're going to slow down. Be patient, play our game, and play our style. And that resonated with me for the rest of the game because that's exactly what they did. They didn't do anything different. They made a few adjustments up front to stop the quarterback run. After that, it was all Rockets defensively.
So what you're saying is Johnson & Johnson provided the Band-Aid the defense needed in that first half. The way Kent State is able to exploit some things early on, are there things that other teams can learn from that and use against the Rockets?
Absolutely. I mean, if you start fast, you can get ahead, and also what you learn is that Toledo has a really good defense that may only allow you 3 more points after that. So you better start fast and keep it going. And for Buffalo, that's something that they would want to do. But to wrap up that Kent State game, they did all the right things early. They just didn't have the ability to sustain. And I think that played a part of them having a very tough out-of-conference schedule.
And also part of it was the fact that they had to go up against Daquan Finn. The Toledo Rocket quarterback set a program record with 7 touchdowns. Daquan Finn is a special athlete that we're seeing blossom and grow this season, his first full year as a starter.
Yeah, absolutely. You go back to the Kent State game, this guy, he had 6 touchdowns in the passing, 1 on the ground, make that 7. I mean, he's in the school record books already as a young pup. So you salute and tip the cap to DQ as well. But also, his confidence is supreme in the way that he played his football game. He can take it from, you feeling like you're out of the game, like the Rockets and everybody else felt for a minute, and you're like, wow, this guy is a special Heisman type of candidate. And I think he is on the Davey O'Brien list now.
Exactly. He was added to the Davey O'Brien watch list that goes to the best quarterback in the nation. So Daquan Finn getting plenty of attention. We said it was the top teams in the MAC on paper. Toledo and Buffalo, both undefeated in the MAC. Are they the top teams in the East and the West? Is this a preview of the championship game in Ford Field in a few weeks?
I mean, we're talking about MACtion. I mean, anything can happen from now. I mean, it could be flipped up on top of his head. These two teams could be at the bottom, although I don't think that. It's what could happen in the next few weeks. I see Buffalo being at the top. I see Toledo being at the top. I see this being a nice little preview. Now, if Toledo or Buffalo can exploit some different things about each team's characteristics defensively and offensively, I think now you're able to say, okay, maybe this game goes into the favor of another team going forward. But right now, I think we are going to see a preview.
As the Buffalo Bulls come into the matchup at home, they had no problems against Bowling Green a couple of weeks ago, blew out Eastern Michigan, edged Miami. So you look at this Buffalo team, I don't know if they have a signature win. They don't have any bad losses either. They're a good team, but are they a great MAC team?
You know what? I think that's to be determined. I mean, you got the best Toledo offense, and you got the second best team in the defense. They think they got the first best on paper defense in the MAC. So with those two teams matching up, we're going to find out if the fiery passing, attack by the Toledo Rockets, and then what can Cole Snyder do against Toledo Rockets defense? Because Judge Culpepper had a career day, along with Bauer making plenty of tackles. So, we're going to have to face up against their best tackler as well in Patterson, 2-time All-MAC kind of guy. They've had a linebacker doing that for year after year. But the number one thing for the Rockets is, can we sustain the run? Because DQ can't be always our number one run option. We'll take it. He had 87 last week. I mean, that's this season high. But that's what we'll take. But we need to find a way to make sure Penny Boone feels a little bit more comfortable running that route.
Yeah, we saw Penny Boone quite a bit in the fourth quarter against Kent State, where they didn't want to get into, in Jason Candle's words, a onside kick competition. They wanted to chew up a lot of clock. So give some credit to that Rocket offensive line. Much maligned beginning of the season because of all the injuries. They've started to gel. They've come together, and they were able to dominate the line of scrimmage there in that fourth quarter, really able to chew up clock and make that game no longer a game in the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, Mitch Berg coming back and just really finally cementing himself into that offensive line. You're starting to see Bergen and the rest of the guys. And Vinny Scurry, another guy that was just moving all around the place and getting a lot of blocks on that big play breakdown. He was the one leading the charge, trying to find guys to block. And that's what you really like about this offensive line. They've had their ups and downs earlier in the season. Now they're starting to form. You see DQ feeling more comfortable in those play action pass situations, which is giving the Rockets a really good chance to score more points.
How important is it for Toledo to have a game like they did against Kent State, that they're able to overcome everything going wrong in the first 5 minutes of that game and still get the victory? Is that something you can build upon for the rest of the season?
Absolutely. I mean, and that takes courage and that takes guts for a football team to be able to dig deep and to go into yourself and say, hey, we're down 21 points. Can we come back? A lot of teams in that situation, they're pitching their tent and they're folding. The Rockets said, you know what, we're built here, we're going to stay here, and we're going to forge ourselves in the fire. And that's what I saw through this team. I saw championship caliber football being played, and I saw excellent coaching. And speaking of coaching, shout out to Coach Candle for getting his 50th win as a head coach for Toledo.
And that passes Dan Summerall for third all-time, as Coach Candle now only trails the Hall of Famer Gary Pinkel and Toledo Tom Amstutz. And speaking of wins, a win this Saturday against Buffalo. That will be 6 on the year for the Rockets, which makes them bowl eligible. I want to thank Mike Robinson from the Toledo Rocket Radio Network for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Mark.